Perfect. So I'm here to talk about EngineYard. I'm going to do that for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to do some code. So scary, risky code. So I just want to sort of go over what EngineYard does. I'm pretty sure you guys mostly know, but I'll get you up to date in case you don't. We have a hosting company for one thing, which is focuses on deployment. So we have done for a bunch of years, basically deployment assistance through our hardware hosting company. We do everything right now from a couple of slice all the way up to a full cluster. Slice basically means you get a slice of our infrastructure, and that includes a slice of database, a slice of hard drive, pretty much a slice of the entire infrastructure, and a slice of support. That's the hardware offering. We just announced something called Solo, which really what I want to talk about, which is basically fully automating what we've already done, what we've learned from the hardware offering onto AWS. So basically you go on, and there's a screencast online that you can look at for more details, but the bottom line is you go on, you specify your Git repository, your SVN repository, you specify your gems, and you specify your Unix dependencies, all that. You click go, 5 to 10 minutes later, you have the site that's up and running, it's accessible over the internet. So that's pretty much awesome. It's the only AWS-based offering I know of that has that level of integration with Rails, and it's based on the fact that we've been doing it person to person for a bunch of years now. So at this point, we pretty much know what it takes to get a Rails app up and running and what sort of the 80-20 rule is, and trying to push it more towards 90-10 with getting Rails apps up and running. That's why we include things like Unix dependencies. And pretty much you can just get up and running very quickly. And you should check it out. There's a screencast, like I said, or you can sign up, try it out. It's definitely worth it. On the other side of the business, we do a bunch of open source stuff. So you probably know I worked on MERB for a year-ish, which is now merged into Rails. I don't really have to say more about that topic other than the fact that I'm working full-time on Rails now, and EngineYard is putting another resource on Rails sometime in March. So we'll have 2 full-time people working on Rails by the end of March, which is pretty cool. And then we also have a couple other projects, one called Vertebra, which is still in its pretty early stage, and we just released it as open source. Basically, it's a cloud computing platform. So the goal is to make it so that you can put a whole bunch of stuff in the cloud. It's agnostic to what's going on. So you can have one node say, anybody who is of this customer, restart your slice. Or you can say, anybody who's able to decode FLV video, go decode, or one of you guys. Basically, the idea is to remove out the idea of endpoints, so you don't have to know which server actually does something. The servers broadcast their capabilities effectively, and then any other server can make requests of the servers by capability. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff like workflow management and security, and it's all open source, and you should check it out. It's pretty cool. It's based on Erlang. It's definitely still very early, like I said, but it's moving on far enough that we felt comfortable open sourcing it, and people are playing with it. It's cool stuff. And we also have the other thing is EY Express, which is basically a VMware image of our hosting environment. So it's mainly designed for people who are actually on our hosting platform to be able to have an image that is exactly like our hosting environment locally. But it could also be used in general in that it will get you up and running with Rails or MERB very quickly, because it's already a VMware image that has everything installed. So, and you can always refresh it. You can pretty much delete it and start from scratch whenever you want. It's a clean environment that is the same environment that we install on our servers. So that's pretty cool. So that's EngineYard. I wanted to show you a little bit about what I've been working on, which is Rails. But I'm going to give you a simple example of something, if I can. I'm going to do some dangerous live coding here during a vendor talk. It's crazy. Mainly because there's no other way to really explain this without just showing it. So what I'm going to show you is basically what I've been working on in Rails with the callback system, which basically takes the old callback system, which was very slow and very simplistic, and convert it into a much faster code-generated beast. So I'll do it via a simple example here. So here I am. I don't know if let me make it much bigger. So is that readable? Okay, so basically callbacks are a simple concept. You have a class, you say include callbacks, then you can define a callback. This is basically effectively how Active Records callbacks work internally. You say, I want to save callback, then you could define one. In this case, I'm defining two. One that's a symbol, which basically means call that symbol. You're probably familiar with this from before filters. And then another one that's a proc, which is basically do something which is effectively the same. Then I'm making an initializer, which sets up a history instance variable, and then I'm just manipulating it so that through tests we'll be able to see that the callbacks were actually called. And then in save, I'm just saying run callback save, right? So let's write a quick test that basically just shows that that happens. So I have my class, so we do my class, so object equals my class dot new and object dot save and object dot history should equal, and I think it's method and then proc. Obviously I haven't written any code yet, so this is not going to work. It's pretty easy to write the code that makes this work though. Actually, so we want to make something called save callback here. So let's just, I don't know. By the way, this is a cool trick here. If you use in TextMate Ruby eval, it'll actually continue syntax highlighting, or anything with Ruby in it, continue syntax highlighting inside. So we want to make something called, so we're defining callback with a name, so we want to do name callback, and it will take something, an object. Whoa. So we'll make a simple callback chain. So let's say, sorry. So we're going to set up, basically, we're going to have a list of callbacks, and it should be R equals, actually. Okay, so what we've done here, just to recap, is when you say define callback with a name, we're going to make a method called that name callback. And if you go back here, right, we said define callback save, and now we have save callback. And it takes an object, and all we're doing here is we're making sure that an instance variable with the name callbacks exists, and then we're pushing the object onto the stack. And then we also need to make the run callbacks method, right? Actually, this needs to be self-dot. Actually, we need to do this a little bit differently. So we need to do a typical I don't know if people have seen this idiom before. Sorry. So this is actually a standard Ruby idiom here, which basically allows you to take a module and have that module basically be inherited from. So here we have a class, should be module callbacks. Right here we have a module called callbacks, and what we want to do actually is we want to have both class methods and instance level methods that get included. So if you go back over here, you'll see that define callback is on the class itself, but run callbacks is on the instance. And when you include from a module in Ruby, that module actually only will include the instance methods that are defined. So here what we're doing is, it's a standard idiom. If you don't know it, you should look it up and learn it. It's awesome. Basically, we're just saying, if you get included into, extend these other methods, these class methods, which basically means that define callback is going to be available on the class level. Whoa. So now we should go back to including callbacks. And we can just define the run callbacks method right here. Yeah. So okay, so now, assuming everything went well here, and actually we shouldn't have to do that. We should just do so assuming everything went well here, and we'll find out when we run the test in a second. What we're going to have when we run callbacks is this list of callbacks that we added via the callback method, and we want to check to see what it is now, right? So if it's a symbol, then just send it. And if it's a proc, then you want to do case callback. Right, you want to call into it. So let's see if this works. Probably not. Yes?
There's a bracket.
Where?
Here, at plastic. There. The name, after name. On that line?
This line?
Yeah, we want it right after name.
Name is the only variable.
Well, something else went wrong. Undefined local variable. Oh, you're right. That's the reason. Undefined method save callback. So where's that coming from? Callbacks back line 7. That should work. Let's see if we can get this working before I'm out of time. So we have undefined method save callback for my class. So we're creating it here, right? Name. So we should be defining one. It's definitely getting called. So I'm actually out of time, sadly. So are there more lightning talks today? Because I will finish it and show it then. Anyway, I'll explain basically, assuming this works, what the next steps are in 1.5 minutes, which is basically once this works, this is a very simple way. What sucks about this technique over here is that what ends up happening is that this iteration over here, this run callbacks, has to actually go through the whole callback list every time, has to do this case statement, which actually is quite slow, especially when you start getting a longer list of callbacks. And what was quite extraordinary is that actually, as I looked at this, what was going on, it was actually like 20% of a Hello World was just spent in various callbacks throughout the system. So that was crazy. The technique is basically to do the same class eval over here and define a special method, so that is the run callback method, that contains the iteration. So instead of saying, when symbol, when proc, basically have a method called something like, internally called like run save callbacks, which does effectively save and then, let's say, the proc.call. Self. So it ends up being that method is what ends up getting run internally instead of that iteration. And that's obviously much faster. So that's what I've been doing. And been integrating it with Rails in general, and that should help bring down that overhead from like 20% to 1%-ish. Yeah, I'm gonna make this actually work A-OK and then post it or something. Sweet.